In this video, we're diving into the powerful, unseen ways God protects us every day, often in moments when we least expect it. From unexpected provision and breakthroughs to the grace that shields us from the consequences of our mistakes, you'll discover how His presence is at work in your life, guiding and protecting you even when you don't realize it. If you've ever wondered how God's protection works amid challenges, or why things seem to align just when you need them most, this video will open your eyes to the many signs of His love and mercy. Stay with us till the end to uncover how you are never alone, even in your most vulnerable moments. Trust me, this is a message you don't want to miss. Before we start, I'd appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on future lessons from God. As we journey through this message together, I urge you to open both your heart and your mind to the powerful truth that God's hand has been guiding you through every single moment of your life, even when you were unaware of it. Take a moment to reflect on the countless instances when you might have felt lost, uncertain, or caught in the storms of life. Yet, when you look back, you realize that God's loving protection was there, quietly and faithfully holding you together. By the end of this talk, my heartfelt prayer is that you will see your life with new eyes that recognize God's unwavering presence and His powerful, tender care. You will begin to acknowledge, with a deep sense of awe and gratitude, the divine shield that has kept you safe, even when you never fully realized the danger you were in. I encourage you to stay with me until the very end, for what you are about to hear has the potential to transform the way you perceive both the struggles and the blessings of life, giving you a profound understanding of the beauty that God has woven into your story. Let us dive into the breathtaking, awe-inspiring ways in which God is protecting you right now, even when you cannot see it. Life is full of moments that, in the rush of the day, we often overlook. Yet, in the quiet stillness of reflection, we are confronted with the staggering realization that there were countless dangers, seen and unseen, that God has gently swept away from our path. Have you ever paused to look back on a moment, only to realize that you were spared from a disaster that could have changed everything? You were saved from harm in ways that you never even knew were possible. This is not a mere coincidence. It is God's divine intervention, His perfect and loving protection working in the background of your life. This concept is at the very core of understanding God's unseen and invisible protection. Life moves so quickly, and we often rush through our days unaware of the spiritual forces and dangers surrounding us. Yet, even in our oblivion, God's protective grace is at work, shielding us from harm in ways we cannot even comprehend. His protection is a divine force, an invisible shield that covers us in ways we will never fully grasp until we take a moment to step back, reflect, and recognize the countless moments of divine intervention that we didn't even realize were happening. When we look at the entirety of our lives, it is astounding to consider how many dangers God has kept at bay, whether through the whisper of the Holy Spirit or through the miraculous timing of events that saved us from what could have been catastrophic. Consider for just a moment the many instances where things could have gone wrong. A car swerves into your lane unexpectedly, and in a split second, you instinctively maneuver, avoiding a collision that you never saw coming. Or perhaps you're walking down the street, lost in thought, completely unaware of a dangerous situation unfolding just ahead. Yet, for some unknown reason, you decide to take a different route or stop for a moment, unknowingly steering clear of harm. These seemingly small, insignificant decisions are often moments where God's unseen hand has intervened. His protection works in the most subtle, invisible ways, gently guiding us away from the dangers we cannot even see. But God's protection doesn't just shield us from the dangers we can physically perceive. It often extends to the spiritual battles we are completely unaware of. Have you ever faced a storm in your life? Whether it was a physical hardship or a deep emotional struggle, and somehow emerged from it with a sense of peace and profound gratitude, even amid the turmoil. That wasn't mere happenstance. That was God's loving presence, His protection, guarding you in ways you may never fully comprehend. It's in these moments that we see how God's shield not only protects us, but also strengthens us. You might have walked through the fire, but you came out refined, stronger, and more at peace than you could have ever imagined. Spiritual warfare is real, and though we may not always recognize it, God is constantly fighting on our behalf. His protection doesn't just shield us from the visible dangers of the world, it also guards us against the invisible forces of darkness that seek to harm our souls, our minds, and our spirits. These battles might not always make themselves known in dramatic ways, but they are just as real as the battles we can see with our eyes. God's protection is an active force, working tirelessly to keep us safe from the traps, snares, and forces that seek to pull us down. It's His love that fights fiercely for our peace, our joy, and our well-being. When we wake up each day, breathe in the air, and feel the warmth of the sun on our faces, it is not just a simple act of living. It is evidence of the countless battles God is fighting on our behalf behind the scenes. The peace we experience in our daily lives, the moments of joy, and the safety we sometimes take for granted are all a testament to the divine protection that covers us. When we begin to understand the true nature of God's protection, we realize that it's not just about avoiding visible harm. Sometimes God's protection comes in the form of nudging us away from situations that we never knew would have caused us harm, protecting us in ways that are far beyond our understanding. So let us take a moment to appreciate not only the blessings we can see, but also the countless blessings God has bestowed upon us that we never even realized. His love is infinite, His protection immeasurable, and His grace far-reaching. Trust in the beauty of His unseen hand, for it is constantly at work, keeping you safe, guiding you, and loving you every step of the way. There are moments in our lives when we face disappointment, frustration, or heartbreak. Times when things don't unfold as we had hoped, and we're left wondering why everything seems to fall apart. In these times, it's easy to question God's plan, to ask, why didn't this happen for me? Why didn't I get that promotion, that relationship, or that opportunity I worked so hard for? What we don't always see amid our disappointment is that, in His boundless wisdom and infinite love, God was protecting us from something far greater, a dangerous path that would have led us astray. He knew, even when we didn't, that what we thought we wanted could have veered us off course and caused us harm in ways we could never have anticipated. What felt like rejection or a missed chance at the time was in fact God's mercy, keeping us safe from something that wasn't meant for us. As we look back on the trajectory of our lives, it's astonishing to see how many times God's unseen protection has kept us safe, even when we couldn't understand it. There are countless moments we've experienced disappointment, times when doors slammed shut, relationships ended, or dreams crumbled. But it is only in reflection that we can see how much grace God has poured into our lives by not allowing us to walk down paths that could have derailed us. At the time, it may have felt like a failure, but when we step back and trust that God's hand was guiding us all along, we begin to see just how much we owe to His divine protection. The accidents we didn't encounter, the relationships that would have broken our hearts, the doors we didn't walk through because He knew they would lead to harm. These aren't just random acts of chance or coincidence. These are the fingerprints of God, lovingly and tirelessly working behind the scenes to guard and guide us with wisdom that we cannot yet comprehend. Life is filled with moments of hope when we fervently pray for something, work tirelessly toward a goal, or put our hearts into a plan, only to watch it all fall apart. We may be left in a state of confusion, wondering why we were so determined, why we fought so hard, only to see everything slip through our fingers. In those moments, it feels as though we have been abandoned, as if our efforts have gone unnoticed, or our dreams have been dismissed. But what if we understood that these closed doors are not signs of rejection, but expressions of God's tender, loving protection? What if they are the very grace we need, keeping us from paths that would have led us to deep heartache or regret? What we perceive as loss or disappointment might be the greatest gift of all. God's loving intervention, steering us away from things we couldn't see would harm us. Sometimes, what we long for most deeply is precisely the thing that could cause us to stumble or drift away from God's purpose for our lives. Perhaps we desperately desire a specific job, a particular relationship, or the chance to move to a new city, thinking it will bring us the fulfillment and happiness we so crave. Yet when that door shuts, when the dream doesn't materialize, it's easy to question why God would withhold it from us. But in reality, there's something far greater at play. God's perfect, all-knowing plan for our lives. God sees the bigger picture. He knows what lies ahead. While we are often focused on our immediate desires, He is looking at our entire journey, seeing what we cannot. What may feel like a loss at the moment is God protecting us from a destructive path. That opportunity we desperately wanted could have pulled us away from the peace we have, or it might have hurt our relationships or led us farther from His will for our lives. A door that seems locked is not always a rejection. It is often God's way of saying, not this, but something better. We are short-sighted, looking only at the here and now, but God sees the entirety of our lives. We push and strive, thinking we know what's best, only to encounter obstacles, setbacks, or closed doors that seem to hold us back. But these very barriers may be the merciful hand of God, redirecting us toward a better path. It is not that God doesn't want us to have good things. It's that He knows what's truly good for us. His wisdom surpasses ours, and in His infinite love, He is guiding us toward what we need, even when it doesn't look the way we imagined. Trusting in His plan means trusting that the doors He closes are not endings, but redirections, steering us toward His best for our lives. Rather than viewing these moments of closed doors as failures, we are invited to recognize them as signs of God's loving and deliberate intervention in our lives. God, with His infinite wisdom and divine foresight, sees the full scope of our future, every turn, every obstacle, and every potential pitfall. When He shuts a door, it is not an act of rejection, it is an act of protection. He knows the road ahead, and in His mercy, He stops us from walking down paths that could lead to pain, regret, or even destruction. These closed doors are not the end of the road. They are His way of steering us away from harm and guiding us towards something far better, something aligned with His perfect plan for us. In the heat of the moment, the path we desire may appear flawless, a golden opportunity that promises fulfillment and success. But God, who knows us better than we know ourselves, understands that this path may not be the one that will bring us the peace or growth He intends for us. His rejection of that opportunity, though it stings at the moment, is His mercy at work. He is lovingly guiding us away from what is not meant for us and toward what is, toward the future He has prepared for us, a future that fits the person He has called us to be. It's a hard lesson to learn, especially when the disappointment feels heavy and the road ahead is unclear. But in the long run, we will see that God's closed doors were not barriers, but blessings in disguise. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And it's not just the big, life-changing decisions where God's protection is evident. Even in the small, seemingly insignificant moments of our daily lives, God is at work. How often do we think we've missed out on something, an event, a meeting, a chance encounter, and chalk it up to mere coincidence or bad timing? Yet, what if those missed opportunities were divine redirects, God's gentle hand guiding us away from something that wasn't meant for us? In a world that constantly tells us to seize every opportunity, God teaches us the wisdom of discerning which opportunities are truly for us. Some doors are meant to stay closed, not because we are undeserving, but because God has something more purposeful, more fulfilling, and more in line with His will for our lives. As time passes, we begin to see God's closed doors for what they truly are, acts of mercy. The disappointment we felt in the moment slowly fades as we realize that those closed doors were not the endings we once thought. Instead, they were the beginning of new paths. Paths that shielded us from wrong decisions, unhealthy relationships, or choices that would have taken us further away from His plan. The closed door is not a finality, it is simply a redirection. It's God's love at work, shaping and molding our journey, leading us towards something far greater than we could have imagined. What we once saw as rejection is revealed as divine protection, guiding us to a life that is far richer and more aligned with God's purpose. As we deepen our trust in God, we begin to understand that His no is just as vital to our growth as His yes. Both are expressions of His goodness and faithfulness. In His wisdom, God knows when to say yes to us, opening doors to new blessings and opportunities, and when to say no, closing doors to protect us from what would cause us harm. As we grow in our relationship with Him, we come to realize that both are necessary for the unfolding of His perfect plan in our lives. With the peace of God, we demonstrate a trust that goes beyond worldly understanding. It is easy to have peace when life is smooth and when everything is going according to our plans and expectations. But it is in the storms, the challenges, and the moments of uncertainty that God's peace truly shines. It is in those times of trial, when everything seems uncertain and difficult, that we witness His active protection in our lives. His peace doesn't just calm our minds, it grounds our hearts and gives us the strength to persevere. Even in the fiercest storms, we can find comfort in the knowledge that God is with us, guiding us through the darkness with His unwavering light. At times in life, we may find ourselves in desperate need, whether it's for financial support, emotional encouragement, physical strength, or direction. We may feel as though there is no way forward, no solution to the problems that weigh us down, and no one to turn to. But in these moments of deep need, God's provision often comes through in ways we never saw coming. These timely provisions, whether they are financial blessings, unexpected help from a friend, or guidance in the form of wisdom and peace, are not random acts of fate. They are the unmistakable fingerprints of God's protection at work in our lives, providing for us in ways that confirm His love, His faithfulness, and His intimate knowledge of our every need. When we look back at the moments when everything seemed impossible, we see that God was there, providing just what we needed, just when we needed it. His protection is not always about removing the storm, but about enabling us to endure it with grace, strength, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. God, in His infinite wisdom and boundless love, knows exactly what we need and when we need it, often long before we even realize it ourselves. His provision is not just a matter of fulfilling our immediate needs, but a deep and ongoing expression of His unwavering care and attention to our lives. These provisions, which often appear at the most unexpected moments, are acts of divine mercy and protection, ensuring that we are cared for in ways that we cannot fully understand at the moment. Sometimes it's the simple encouragement from a friend or a family member when we are feeling weary and defeated, or the unexpected financial blessing that arrives just as we face a bill we have no idea how to pay. At first glance, these occurrences may seem coincidental, perhaps even like a stroke of luck. But when we stop and reflect, we can see that they are far too perfectly timed, too intricately woven into the fabric of our lives, to be anything other than God's hand at work. In these moments, God is actively providing for us, often before we even have the chance to voice our needs in prayer. It's as if He already knows the exact timing and the exact resources we need to keep going, and He makes sure they are available exactly when we need them. This kind of provision is not just a sign of His care, it is a beautiful demonstration of His protective hand in our lives. Even when the way ahead seems unclear, His provision ensures that we have the strength, the resources, and the courage to keep moving forward. God's provision doesn't always come in the forms we expect, and often it stretches our faith in ways we never anticipated. There are moments when we find ourselves faced with a need so great, so seemingly insurmountable, that we don't know how we will survive. A financial crisis, an illness that shakes our very foundation, a relationship that feels beyond repair. These are the kinds of challenges that can make us feel utterly powerless. In those times, it might seem as if the weight of the world is too much to bear, and there's no way out. Yet, just as we are reaching the end of our resources, when we feel as though there's no more strength to muster, that's when the breakthrough comes. It might be an unexpected opportunity, a shift in circumstances, or help from someone we never saw coming. In these moments, we witness God's active provision, His way of showing us that He is with us, even when we can't see Him. The provision we receive is not always just about meeting our immediate needs, but about reminding us that He sees us, that He knows our struggles, and that He is actively working to protect us, even in our deepest moments of uncertainty. In addition to meeting our material needs, God often provides in ways that go beyond the physical. Sometimes the greatest provision we experience comes in the form of strength, wisdom, or peace when we need it most. In moments of deep emotional or spiritual need, God can pour out an unexpected peace or clarity that helps us navigate the most difficult situations. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, unsure of what decision to make, and suddenly the right words or actions come to you, or you feel a deep sense of assurance that guides you in the right direction? That is God's provision at work. Not just through physical resources, but through the emotional and spiritual tools we need to make it through. These moments are a reminder that God doesn't just provide for us in physical ways, He equips us emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, preparing us for whatever challenges may come next. What we often fail to recognize is that God's provision is not merely about meeting our needs in the present. It is an ongoing sign of His protective presence over our lives. Every time God provides for us, whether in big ways or small, it is a reminder that He is actively shielding us from the dangers, hardships, and struggles that could otherwise overwhelm us. In those times when we feel helpless, lost, or uncertain, His provision acts as a shield, ensuring that we have everything we need to continue trusting in Him, to keep walking, and to keep moving forward, with the assurance that He will never leave us empty-handed. There are countless times in life when we fall short, make mistakes, or act in ways that are far from ideal. We might make careless decisions, choose paths that lead to disappointment, or act in moments of weakness that we later regret. Yet despite our imperfections, we are often spared from the disastrous consequences that we so easily could have faced. In those moments when we find ourselves in situations that could have led to severe repercussions, God's grace acts as a protective shield, preventing us from bearing the full weight of our wrong choices. This is an incredible reminder of His mercy and His loving protection, which remains steadfast even when we don't deserve it. God's grace is always at work, even in the moments when we fall short, and He continually protects us from the consequences of our actions, acting not as a judge, but as a loving Father who shields us with His unwavering care. We've all experienced that gut-wrenching feeling of making a mistake. Whether it's in the fragile realm of relationships, the demanding pressure of our careers, or the private struggles within our hearts, we all know the raw vulnerability of failing. In those moments, our minds often race with dread and anxiety, anticipating the consequences, the punishment, the rejection, the crushing blow to everything we've worked tirelessly to build. We fear the unraveling of our lives, piece by delicate piece, thinking that our failure will be the end of it all. Yet time and time again, we are spared from the worst. The worst-case scenario never materializes as we expect it to, and in the face of our mistakes, we find a grace that shields us in unexpected ways. The world we live in is full of pain, suffering, and heartbreak, but somehow we're not consumed by it. It's not because we are deserving of mercy, nor because we are flawless. We are far from perfect. Rather, it's because of a grace far greater than we can fathom. God's mercy wraps around us in our moments of failure, offering protection that we could never have earned on our own. This divine protection doesn't always shield us from the full impact of our actions immediately, but it gives us something far more precious: time. Time to reflect, time to correct course, time to grow. It's in those moments that we are gifted a space to repent, to reflect, to turn our hearts back to Him before the consequences of our choices become irreversible. We may act out of selfishness, impatience, pride, or even desperation, and often we cannot foresee the devastating effects our decisions will have on others. We may lash out in anger, speak hurtful words, make selfish choices, or walk down paths that are far from aligned with God's perfect will. And in those moments, we brace ourselves for the aftermath. The relationships torn apart, the opportunities lost, the fallout that feels inevitable. Yet, in the mysterious and boundless mercy of God, He sometimes withholds those immediate consequences, not because we deserve to escape, but because He is allowing us to learn, to grow, and to turn back before things escalate beyond repair. This isn't to say that consequences won't come, for they often do in one form or another. But in the meantime, God's mercy offers us space, a divine breathing room that allows us to heal, restore, and change before it's too late. In the moments when we think we're headed down a destructive path, His protection is there, like a gentle hand guiding us away from the very things that could destroy us. It's in the moments we think we are walking toward good, only to look back and realize we were lost, that we see His grace covering us, sparing us from the weight of our own misguided decisions. It's so easy for us to think we're in control, making the right choices and steering ourselves toward the future we envision. But the truth is, we can be blind to the dangers ahead, unaware of how our actions will reverberate in the future. We often don't see the intricate ways that God, in His divine protection, redirects our steps, shielding us from the disasters we would never have anticipated. His mercy isn't just about keeping us from harm. It's about giving us grace when we stumble, offering us a second chance when we deserve judgment. In His boundless love, God provides a space to grow through our mistakes. His protection doesn't erase the lessons that come with our missteps. Rather, it allows us to learn, to change, and to heal without the burden of irreversible damage. We may be tempted to believe that every wrong choice should lead to instant consequences, but God's grace works differently. His mercy doesn't punish. It gives us time to evolve, to develop spiritually, and to deepen our relationship with Him. In that sacred space, we experience the active, life-giving power of His protection, guiding us toward a future where our mistakes no longer define us, but become stepping stones to greater wisdom, love, and growth. It is through the overwhelming mercy of God that we can face our mistakes without the crushing weight of fear and despair. In those fragile moments where our failures threaten to define us, He offers us something we could never earn: the opportunity to return to Him. He opens His arms wide, offering forgiveness and grace, allowing us to move forward in life with the unshakable knowledge that He is still with us, still protecting, still guiding, and still orchestrating every detail of our lives according to His perfect will. These moments of mercy, when consequences are delayed or withheld, are not just acts of divine grace, but powerful reminders of God's constant, loving presence in our lives. Even in our deepest failures, we see glimpses of His heart, a heart that is not bent on condemnation, but on protection and restoration. These moments reflect His desire not only to shield us from the dangers of the world, but to protect us from the very destructive effects of our own choices. In the face of our weaknesses, God's protection is a reminder that His mercy extends far beyond keeping us safe from the things we can see. It reaches deeper, guarding us from the harm we might unknowingly bring upon ourselves. Through His boundless grace, He makes a way for us to learn from our mistakes without being immediately consumed by the consequences. He gives us time not to justify ourselves or to wallow in guilt, but to repent, to change, and to grow into the people He has called us to be. This space, this grace, is a sacred gift, an invitation to experience transformation without being obliterated by the very failures that once felt like insurmountable obstacles. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. When we step back and reflect, we begin to see that God's protection is not just about sparing us from external harm, but about shielding us from the internal chaos that can arise when we walk out of alignment with His will. Through His mercy, we are given the rare chance to recognize our mistakes, embrace the lessons they offer, and rise above them. It's through this ongoing process of repentance, learning, and growth that God's hand becomes ever more evident, even amid our struggles. As we look closer at our lives, we begin to notice the abundant signs of God's protection, often subtle yet always present. It's in the quiet moments of peace during a storm, the doors that close just when we need them to, the unexpected provisions that arrive at just the right time, and the mercy that shields us from the full weight of our mistakes. These acts are not coincidences. They are the visible evidence of a loving God who is actively involved in every moment of our lives. His hand is ever present, guiding, protecting, and loving us through every circumstance, even when we fail to recognize it. And in those moments, we are reminded that we are not alone, never have been, and never will be. As we reflect on the grace, mercy, and protection that God provides in our lives, we are reminded that even in our failures, He is always there, guiding, protecting, and offering us the opportunity to grow. The powerful lessons of His mercy allow us to learn, repent, and change without being consumed by the consequences of our mistakes. Now, I want to hear from you. What have you learned so far from today's message? What is one thing that stood out to you that you plan to bring into your life moving forward? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Your support helps us reach more people, and together we can continue spreading messages of grace, growth, and transformation. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments.